Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Well, my overall observation is total astonishment. How on earth did we all go to the same place and you've ended up with such different photos? Fantastic. I am indeed impressed. Indeed, there are several points I want to make from a global point of view, that you've all found a different point of view, and that was the task. Wasn't that good? Didn't you do well? We've even got some photos of the same object, and they are quite different. So well done to all of you. Now, you're not all going to get the box of chocolates, so don't get too excited, but let's have a look at bill number one. Bill number one has drawn our attention to the strangeness of this head, this architectural head, this sculptured head, and he's put it in such a context that we are seeing the juxtaposition between the head, the tree, and the buildings on the other side. Now, most of us would have looked at this head, scratched our heads, and thought, crumbs, what a strange thing, because as we walked around it, it was three-dimensional. It had almost a living being. And I would normally say to you that if you take a photo of somebody else's artwork, you've got to add something of your own. And what's Bill done? He has chosen such an aperture that the background, that building, that rectilinear building, somehow echoes the stretched out verticality. Is there such a word? Well, there is now, because I've just invented it. Of the head against the buildings. And I like that a lot. So juxtaposition, great. I also like the way that Bill has monochromed it. Well done, Bill. I do like monochrome, and that's showing the best of it. Well done. Let's move on to bill number two, which you might say is a straightforward record shot, until you look at it more closely and you discover that Bill has pointed his camera upwards, giving us that airy, lofty feeling of this marketplace, this undercover market. So I like that. He's actually said, no, it's not just a straightforward shot, straight ahead. It's looking up to the lights. And look with me at the aspect ratio. You know what that means? Is it portrait, like bill number one, or is it landscape with a sideways horizontal image? No, Bill's chosen a square format. I do like square formats. Very well done. Pointing up towards the heavens, giving us an idea of the loftiness of this building. Let's go on to bill number three. And what Bill has seen here is this somehow postcard, this letterbox image of the gherkin, contrasting it against the juxtaposition of parts, just part of the Lloyd's building, tubing there, and whatever other building that is on the right hand side. So we are encouraged to peek between the tubes on the left of the Lloyd's building and the other building on the right. It's intriguing. SIL. Does it tick any of the SIL boxes? Yes, it does. It ticks the intriguing box, the letter I. So well done, Bill. I like that. Thank you. Let's move on to Brenda number one. And Brenda's seen something that I think is extraordinarily well seen. That in this convex mirror we have the image of the traffic and another building. Further, she has chosen such an aperture as to drop the background into softness and the cranes into softness. And in addition, not only but also, she's vignetted the corners, drawing our attention into what's in the mirror. I love that image. It's really well seen. It is a different point of view. It definitely addresses the topic. I like that a lot. Of course, it's already becoming an historic photo. And I know I've got some with other adverts on buses, and you think, crumbs, when was that show? When was that film? And just to give you a clue, one of mine has a bus with the film on its first release of Ben-Hur. So that can date it, can't it? So this is going to be an historic photo, and I'm sure that it's a really well taken photo. Thank you for that one. Brenda number 2. And on this occasion, Brenda's managed to squeeze in 3 buildings. Of course we are intrigued, we are invited, we are interested to look through the buildings at the Gherkin on the background, in the background. And she has juxtaposed it with an ancient church, the towers, the minarets, the top of which contrasts with the modernity, both of the Gherkin through the gap, the piece of the Lloyd's building on the left, and the other glass building on the right. So she sandwiched it in there. And this juxtaposition of ancient and modern has certainly given us something quite interesting to look at. I do like that. I like the exposure. I like the fact that Brenda's kept this as a coloured image. Though there's no bright highlights, there are deep blacks in the diamonds of the glass of the Gherkin, and we are intrigued by it. We're drawn in to look at the Gherkin and contrast it with the ancient church in the foreground. So that certainly ticks the I box in SIL. Brenda number 3. And look, ladies and gentlemen, at what Brenda's done here. She's picked on a viewpoint which somehow juxtapositions these tubes on the left, these, I don't know what you call them, twisted metal shapes on the right. She's put them together, and she's put a very thin stroke around the outside. All credit to you, Brenda. That's very, very good indeed. I do like that. And it's an intriguing photo. I have to look at that and say, what on earth is it? Now, if I wasn't standing there, if I hadn't been there, if we hadn't all been to this place, anyone else would say, crumbs, what is it? And I know what it is, and you know what it is, and we know where it is. So let's look at what else we can say about this photo. Is there a point of focal interest? Where does your eye settle? Or is it just too busy to be able to see any real composition? Well, actually, if you all look at the same place I'm looking, there's a darker section off to the right and down from the centre, which gives me the place my eye settles on. So this point of focal interest is very important, and I like that a lot. So it ticks the box of composition, it ticks the box of having a lighter stroke around the outside, and it's intriguing. So well done on that, Brenda. Coming to Diana number 1, Diana has managed to retain some greenness in the glass behind these twisted metal shapes. She's accentuated perhaps the silverness, or maybe Diana will say that's just the way it came out. That's fine. Of these twisted metal shapes which almost look pinky purplish. And as such, that's a very interesting mix of colours. Diana has also put a stroke line around hers. Great. Tick in the box. Composition. That's good. I need again to try to see where my eye is settling. And the trick is to close your eyes, then open your eyes, and just see where your eyes go. And to my point of view, from my point of view, my eyes are settling somewhere in the top left. Now I'm not sure there is anything there, but I am taken there by the shapes. And some judge might call this a pattern picture. Some judges would say, gosh, you've done well in post-processing this to get these contrasting colours, almost opposite in the colour wheel. You can imagine a painter, a DIY expert up on his ladder, painting these purplish, pinkish shapes. And it certainly made an interesting photo. Thank you, Diana. Diana 2. Now, lots of people saw these pretend rocks up in the tree. We all saw the gherkin. But look with me, ladies and gentlemen, at what Diana has done. She's juxtaposed, get it right, David, the tree with the gherkin. Nature and man-made. Now, you might say, well, the nature didn't grow the rocks up in the tree, but it's certainly a modernistic view of natural things and man-made things, and I like that. I do like the juxtaposition. I do like the way that that's been presented. All credit for the 1 or 2 pixel mid-grey stroke line, key line around the whole thing. I like that a lot. I think that's a unique point of view. And what was the task? The task was a different point of view, and Diana's achieved it. Can you imagine with me, when we are not there, as a man on a ladder, a DIY expert, taking these rocks, heaving them up, well, you and I know they're really polystyrene, but nonetheless, and then sticking them in place with his glue gun. Well, okay, it's worked, and it's worked rather well. An intriguing photo. I like that a lot. It certainly floats my boat. Well done. Diana number 3, and here we have this almost landscape view of the, what is that monument? Oh, they call it the monument, don't they? Not only has Diana given us the monument, which isn't an easy, interesting building to take a photo of, but she's included its reflection in the green glass on the right-hand side. How wonderful. That's really well seen. Compositionally, we have this mirror version of the photo, which has given us quite an intriguing view. You see lots of tourists pointing their cameras at this monument and getting the most boring photos, but this is intriguing. You've really got your eye in on this, haven't you? And this is done very well indeed. You've retained the green of the glass on the right-hand side. You've retained the natural colours of the stone on the left. You have this balanced picture. And I'm going to be intrigued to see and to hear what other judges say about that image. I do like that a lot. That's very well seen. All credit for the thin stroke line around the whole thing. That'll show up well on the projector, separating the image from the black of the screen around it, depending, of course, on the blackout in the room at the time. I think that's very well seen indeed. Very well done. Let's move on. Young Jeff. And Jeff has thought, now what on earth am I going to do with this topic? A different point of view. And so he's found this paperweight, he's put a lens of some description in front of it, taken the photo at such an aperture. Look at the aperture he has chosen. It's a wide open aperture. The V and the R on the lens, the grip on the lens, all of that is soft, but the paperweight is dead sharp. The background drops into softness, The wallpaper behind is soft. Well chosen aperture, Jeff. That's really good. And what a good idea from a different point of view. Ticks the box. So you can imagine the scene. You put your paperweight down, you put your camera down, you look at the two on the wooden surface there, and there's nothing to it. But Jeff has positioned his camera to make the lens bring us in from the bottom left-hand corner to the subject in question, and has produced a very good photo. Well done, Jeff. I think that's your best one for a long time. Well done. Jeff number 2. A wine glass. Perhaps it's water, perhaps it's wine, who knows, who cares. But look at the aperture Jeff has chosen. Ladies and gentlemen, look at it. The view through the glass of the poinsettia is absolutely pin sharp, perfect. The view of the background, which in fact is the poinsettia and the curtains and the windowsill, is very soft. Very well taken aperture, Jeff. I like that. You can keep doing that over and over again. So you can imagine the scenery, can't you? You know, Jeff's been doing a little bit of painting, a little bit of home decorating, a little bit of DIY, and Joan has come along and given him this glass of white wine. There you are, Jeff. Refresh yourself. And Jeff has seen the image through the glass. Very well seen, Jeff. I like that a lot. Excellent. Good effort. Jeff number 3. Well, Jeff's got the idea now. He's on a roll now. He's seen a different point of view in the wing mirror of the car, of the scenery, that lovely tree, the houses in the background, a well-chosen sky, and is that Joan's car? I don't know. Maybe it's Jeff's car. I don't know. Doesn't matter. And what Jeff has focused upon is the vehicle in the mirror. So the mirror itself, the frame of the mirror, is totally soft and out of focus. Great. I love it. It's a different point of view. Who on earth would have looked around to find a mirror and to take an image of what's seen in the mirror? Well, Jeff did. And well done on that, Jeff. I like the colour, I like the exposure, it's very well seen. You've got a different point of view. Great. Not too sure about quite so much of the background. Do we need the wall? Perhaps if you've got the photo manipulation jiggery-pokery software, you could shade some of that out, crop some of that out, and give me a square format. I wonder if I can give that to you, Jeff, as an individual challenge. I want you to do some square formats for me, because they are very, very powerful. But that's a good image. It's well seen. Well done, Jeff. Iris number 1. Now, I take it that this is that sort of cucumber, gherkin, metal thing, whatever it was that we found. But it may not be. It may be something else. The images don't have to be of something on our trip on that day. And maybe Iris will say to me, no, it's something else altogether. That's fine. But it's clearly some sort of metal sculpture, some sort of carving, some object with metal, made of metal, coated in metal. And that's quite hard to photograph. You and I know, because we've tried it. We did shiny metal some months ago. And Iris has retained the detail in the highlights. It's all too easy to lose the detail in the highlights. And Iris has retained them, so well done on that. Where does my eye settle? Well, I think there's some sort of tricuspid thing in the middle, almost like a heart valve or a tooth. And so it's abstract. I think the whole of this image is an abstract submission, and I like that. I have to say it's a lot better than some of the abstracts I saw in a club not many weeks ago, and I think that's a cracking good abstract. I wonder if you could consider just choosing a different crop so that that eye, as I call it, which is nearly in the middle, could be on the top left third. Just crop it or move your camera or somehow change it. Now the more I look at this, the more I'm seeing things. Am I seeing a pterodactyl? Am I seeing a face? Am I seeing a mouth and an eye and a nose? Or is it a crocodile? I don't know. But it's full of imaginative creatures and pictures and thoughts. I like that. It's a real good abstract. It's not easy to do an abstract, so well done, Iris. Iris number 2. Iris has decided to somehow look at the position, I guess I'm groping for a word here, of that central building, squashed as it were between the building on the left and the building on the right. Is it a different point of view? Well, she's managed to retain some of that strange head on the left hand side, showing how congested that little town square wasn't. A town square, it was a plaza, let's call it, and as such it works. The more I look at that, the more I see in that photo. A well-chosen sky, just peeking through. These buildings sandwiching the central building. And this bookend on the left-hand side of the head. My observation is that any photo that has words in it, my eye is drawn towards those words, and I just have to read what they say. I was going to suggest that the whole photo might be stronger, rotated, flipped over, flipped on a vertical axis, but then of course the words would be back to front. But you could still do it if you have the photo manipulation jiggery-pokery software to be able to get rid of those words. So well done, well seen. Iris number 3. Now you might say, what on earth is this a photo of? Until you realise that Iris is representing the congestion of the buildings and the traffic in that part of London. You and I know that the monument's in there somewhere, and you've got to struggle to see it, but it is in there, and quite a lot of it is in there. You will also realise how constrained it is by the building on the left as we view it, and the buildings on the right as we view them, and the buses coming along the street here. So really this photo might be called congestion. Not quite constipation, but congestion. And as such, it certainly tells a story. So it ticks the box of S for story. It perhaps could be improved with a stroke, mid-grade, 1 or 2 pixels around the whole thing, and it certainly is acting to address the topic of a different point of view and the title that I suggest of congestion. I like that. Well seen. Thanks, Iris. Janet number 1. Now Janet's done lots of things to this image, and I like it from that point of view very much indeed. Now I don't know where this building is, and I almost don't care. But most people would have taken a picture of this black basalt rock blocks with this carving. It's almost a gargoyle. Whether it really is a gargoyle, I don't know, and I don't care. But it's an interesting, different point of view of the detail on this building. Now, not only has Janet shown us this detail, which otherwise most people would walk past and not even notice. Maybe the sculptor, maybe the architect would have noticed, but that's all. But look at the stroke line around the photo, ladies and gentlemen. It's blue, and it's about 3 or 4 pixels. And that blue is just a shade darker than the sky. Now, we're not in charge of the sky, the weather, unless you have a direct line to the weather gods. So Janet's chosen a blue which is just a shade darker than the blue of the sky, and as such it works. Well done. I like that a lot. I have no idea where it is, and it doesn't matter tuppence. I like it. It's a different point of view of a piece of a building which otherwise perhaps would have gone without comment. But I do like that a lot. That's very well seen, Janet. Thank you for submitting it. Janet's image number 2. Again, she's found an intriguing point of view of this spiral staircase. My eye is taken from the bottom left-hand corner, all credit to you, going up the spiral up to the very top of wherever it is. Wonderfully seen. Very well positioned, taking me in from the bottom left-hand corner. There's something to be learned from that. Bottom left-hand corner is a very important part of your photos. Not only has Janet exactly and perfectly chosen the aperture and the shutter speed and the ISO to give us this wonderful shape, but she's also stroked or keylined the image. Now in number 1 she chose blue. In this one, number 2, she's chosen blue of an even darker shade. And I like that. Perfectly good. No reason why it should be white or mid-grey, and definitely not bright red, but don't tell Mo, who's sitting here beside me groaning. But that's very well chosen. And that dark blue will separate this image from the darkness, the blackness of the screen when it's projected in any PPI competition. I like that a lot. It's intriguing. There's a story about it. I want to go up the spiral staircase and arrive somewhere. And I do arrive somewhere. I arrive at some sort of metallic structure that's holding the roof on, I guess, wherever this may be. I'm intrigued to know where it is. I'd hate to be the painter that has to paint that. And just imagine Fred Bloggs in his overalls, Mr. DIY, painting that as he goes up and up and up and up, and wondering whenever he going to get to the top. Well done. I like that. Thanks, Janet. Janet 3. Now, most people would have stood well back from whichever bridge this is, taken the photo, and said to their friends, here's a bridge. It's the XYZ bridge. But Janet has seen some detail. Janet has seen and remembered that less is more. And I'm getting the feel here of what holds that bridge up. I'm looking at that wonderful set of gold and silver plaques. I'm looking at the structure of the girders and how they are fixed to the bridge. And naturally my eye is taken from the left by these leading lines up to the right, where Janet has deliberately left in just a piece of the turret of the bridge. So leading lines have to go somewhere, and they have. Janet's kept that in deliberately. Not only that, but also, you'll notice, she's given it a stroke. Why did she choose blue? Answer, because it's the blue of the sky darkened down a shade or two. And that's very well taken. So Janet's mastered something in these 3 photos. Using a stroke and selecting the colour of that stroke. Now, I don't know if Mo can see blue, We know he's got a problem with red, but nonetheless, that's blue. I like it. Well done, Janet. Mo number 1. Speaking of Mo, here we are. Now, we all went to the Gherkin. Everyone saw this building, and Mo has seen this V shape in the glazing bars of the Gherkin. Really well done. It's almost a pattern picture. We have the contrast between the white of the structure and the black glazing bars. And the white is not overexposed. The detail is retained. I'm also seeing in the reflection in the windows of this Gherkin building, the building behind me. That's interesting. It's ticking the box of a story and interesting. So I like that a lot. Now, some judges might be critical of where the bottom of the V is. It's not quite in the middle. And should it be? Well, no, it doesn't have to be. It's perfectly okay to put it somewhere else. But as with some other photos we've seen, if there are words in it, one's eye is drawn to the words. Once you've seen them, you've got to read them. And that's fine. He's kept those. They're not bright red. That's great. I like that image a lot. That might be, just might be, one of Mo's best. Yeah, I think I'll put that as one of Mo's best. So well done, Mo. Mo number 2, we're presented excuse me, we're presented with a guitar, and the view down the strings of this guitar. Is it a guitar? No, what is it then, Mo?
It's a ukulele.
Oh, it'll be a ukulele. Oh, well, there we go.
Or a banjo, as they call it.
Banjo in my terms. Okay. Very, very interesting, different point of view. Looking down the instrument. Now, Mo has chosen such an aperture that the strings nearest us are dead sharp, and they actually retain their sharpness pretty much all the way up to the furthest away part. And that's fine. He's decided to do that. Other people may have chosen a wider aperture so as to keep the nearest part of the strings dead sharp and let the strings get softer and softer as they go up the fingerboard towards the screws at the other end. But Mo has chosen to do it this way, and that's fine. Further, it looks like he's cropped it, and he's cropped it just tight enough on the screws. Those white, are they ivory, are they plastic? I don't know. Those screws on the top right hand corner are just inside the frame. That's a skillful bit of composition, so well done on that, Mo. I like that. It's telling me a story. Here's an old ukulele here looking along the strings, not the position you would normally look at. It's a different point of view, and I like that. So you can imagine our DIY man who's just painted those stairs, who's positioned the glue gun to those rocks up the tree, that this guy is now sitting down with his ukulele and he's going to entertain us with when I'm cleaning windows. I like it. However, doesn't have a stroke around it. And what would we say to Mo? Choose one of the colours in the image, darken it down half a shade, and give it a key line, a stroke around it. Otherwise, I quite like that. Mo number 3. This tropical island, this wonderful isle with these palm trees and this delicious chocolate box building in the background. A wide angle lens to bring the palm trees in to the frame, and they're framing the wonderful sky that Mo has dialed up with his line to the weather gods. Beautifully composed. However, we have to learn from this. Is there anything to learn from the lens that he's chosen, or the lens that he's tried to represent? Well, a wide-angle lens does give you quite a wide sweep in your photos. The building in the background is pin sharp. The building behind the palm tree on the left is soft. The building or the structure on the right disappears into insignificance because of its softness. And we have this foliage in the front, which is just giving us a foreground, a midground, and a background. Remember that? We did that months and months, if not years ago. Foreground, midground, and background. We've got the door stops left and right, but we haven't got a stroke line, not even a red one. But there we go. It is Mo's effort. So well done, Mo. We're just waiting for Suzanne's to come up. Here we go with Suzanne number 1. And Suzanne has got a very, very intriguing point of view here. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Ask yourself, where was Suzanne when she took this photo? Well, clearly she's got right down low, giving us these converging leading lines and taking us to the apex, as it were, of the structure of this building. Now, you and I know which building that is, and that doesn't matter. It is, in a sense, a very, very powerful, impactful photo. Leading lines taking us to somewhere. Structure. Who on earth would have thought of taking just that part of the gherkin? Well, Suzanne did, and she did jolly well. I like that a lot. Could it be improved? Marginal improvement by a stroke line around the whole thing. Would we want a little tiny vignette? It is said that if you can notice a vignette, it's too much. And in this case, perhaps just enough vignette just to hold the corners in. But I like that as a very, very powerful image indeed. Well done. It's impactful. And I'm just wondering who on earth cleans it. Who on earth keeps it that pristine white against the jet black? Or is it one of those self-cleaning surfaces? Or do we have a man on a ladder that goes up and cleans it? I don't know. Well done, Suzanne. I'd like a stroke line, mid-grey, 1 or 2 pixels. I think that's a very, very powerful image. A judge somewhere else might, just might, criticise the horizontalness or otherwise of the jet black base there. Does it need to be exactly horizontal? Not to my way of thinking. Gives me a feeling of where we are. But just try, if you were to decide to reuse that image elsewhere, just try turning it anti-clockwise enough, just enough to bring that jet black structure, part of the structure, to be exactly horizontal. Well done, Suzanne. Intrigue, I like it. Tells me a story, I like it. Leading lines, I like it. Oh, one other thing. There's a little white line on the left-hand side. If you have the photo manipulation figure photo software, you might consider just taking that out. If it doesn't work, if it can't take it out exactly, perfectly, don't do it at all. But make a separate copy and have a go. Please do that for me. I think that's going to be a cracking good picture when you put it up elsewhere. Suzanne number 2. I was speaking of the DIY man who cleaned the structure. And here are 3 of them. Not 1, not 2, but 3. Well done. So here we are, the 3 of them, working hard, One's on his mobile phone, one's dragging on his fag, and the other one's holding his coffee. 3 working men. And obviously they've got a job to do, and it isn't just sitting there looking at us, taking photographs of them. But it makes the photo. I wonder what title you give to this photo. And titles are very, very important. I don't want to suggest a title to you, but I'm sure you'll think of one. And again, it is a part of the gherkin where less is more, where the almost frame within a frame is holding in these 3 guys. I like that a lot. And the more I look at it, the more I see the reflections of the building behind us, the expressions on the men's faces, and the whole way it's been seen and composed. Well done, Suzanne. That's a cracking good image. Well done. Stroke line, 1 or 2, mid-grey, not bright white and definitely not red. Otherwise it's jolly good. Next one then, Suzanne, number 3. A pattern picture, you might say, with the structure, the architectural structure, almost like the ribs of a boat in the ceiling of this particular building. Is it that marketplace we went to? I guess it is. These lanterns hanging down, carefully positioned, just holding us in. And where does my eye go? I'm brought in to the very furthest end of this upturned boat structure. I like that a lot. Looking not exactly straight up, but certainly upwards. The supporting structures that hold the lanterns in place don't actually need to be dead vertical. There are some grumpy judges who will ask you to turn those supports to make them parallel and vertical. Personally, I don't need it. I think that takes me up into the rafters, the boat-like structure, and I think that works very well. It's a different point of view. It definitely addresses the topic, and I like it a lot. Once again, I wonder how they keep it clean. Is there a man on a ladder taking his feather duster or her feather duster up there to dust that whole structure? I don't know. Thin stroke line, 1 or 2 pixels, mid-grey, works for trade. Well done. Let's move on. Terry 1. Now, actually, a lot of people would say, let's say you show it to your old grandma, and she would say, well, why didn't you take a picture of the monument? Well, Terry didn't want to. He wanted to juxtaposition the poster advertising the monument and the monument itself behind it. He's shown the congestion of the monument and its surroundings, this building with all those windows. And actually, do you know what? Those windows in themselves are a photo just in themselves. There's leading lines from those windows just bringing me in from the top left-hand corner in to look at the monument juxtapositioned against the poster. I like that. Be very careful when you're taking pictures with words in them. People are going to read the words. That's fine. But this picture is about the juxtaposition of that building on the left, the poster, and the monument itself. And it's a different point of view. Great. I like that a lot. Is there a very, very faint vignette, or is it just a lens effect? Either which way, it works. I like that. It's a very, very good, powerful, different point of view. Let's move on to Terry number 2. Terry, again, has seen a mirror, which is giving us a view behind us of two buildings and a lantern. Terry's managed to darken down, or maybe that's just the way it came out, all of the surroundings. And the crop, if you can see the crop, is quite tight on the mirror. That's great. I like that a lot. So we're not distracted. Look at the aperture that Terry has chosen. It is such that the building in the background is sharp, but the frame of the mirror is soft. Well done, Terry. I like that. Different point of view. Ticks the box. There's a story there. There's a frame within a frame. And there's intrigue. Where on earth is it? I know where it was. And you know where it was. But another judge doesn't need to know where it is. Be careful if you put that into another competition, because it needs a title that tells the judge what to look for. I'm not going to tell you what the title should be, but I know that it's strong. It's a very strong image. Stroke line, 1 or 2 pixels, mid-grey, just to make it perfect. Thank you. Terry number 3. Now, some people have taken photos of the metal structure. Some people have taken photos of the windows. But Terry has brought our attention to the reflection in the windows of the metal structure and the building behind us. This sort of Lego brick building, whatever it is really well seen. There's a cunning trick that Terry has performed here by keeping just a hint of some branches of a tree into the bottom left-hand corner, almost bringing us up. And we're brought from those branches up through the glazing bars of the window into the main part of the window. So my eye is coming in from the bottom left. I'm going up in an anti-clockwise sense to the metal structure in the reflection that we see in the window there. I like that a lot. It's a very, very powerful pattern picture. Very well done. Can't see any signs of vignetting, and that's fine. However, it would be improved by a mid-grey 1 or 2 pixel stroke key line around the whole thing, if you have the photo manipulation jiggery-pokery software to do that. But I like that as it stands. Don't know what your title would be for it. To me, it's saying Lego brick building, but I don't know. Yeah, I like that. I think that could do well elsewhere. So well done, everyone. Now, I think from all of these that you have absolutely taken the challenge by the horns. Can you take a challenge by the horns? Well, you can now. And you've really given me some quite different points of view. The perspective, the orientation, the cropping, the stroking or key lines, the colour rendition, the choice of apertures, and the position of your cameras are saying to me that you are a skillful bunch of photographers. You are not happy snappers. You are skillful photographers. So well done, all of you. I think that is a cracking suite of photos. I'm proud of every single one of you. So well done. Now when we meet, the next project, I've already told you. But just to repeat it, it is